things like that.
So I'm going to talk, actually, what I'm thinking of is to talk about something that happened in my last is to level 2, where we were doing something called the cross, which in the cross there's a masculine, feminine, dark, and light. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting as an oracle or the transmission of the light feminine, and women were coming to me and saying, like, how can I trust? I hate men. They've been so bad to me. So I don't want to describe the whole scene because that's part of the workshop or part of the initiation, which is a week long. But I will talk about this. I said to these women, each one, a myriad of women came to me while I was sitting in the light feminine. So I was like sitting where Mother Mary would sit. Mm-hmm. I was sitting where Mother Teresa would sit, with light feminine. I was sitting where possibly Joan of Arc would sit. You know, women in the light side of a spectrum for spirituality, etc. And they came to me and they said, how can I ever trust? I don't trust any men. What should I do? Yeah. And I looked at each one of them. I had tears in my eyes, and I said, this tells me that, one, you don't speak your truth fast enough. Means you don't set a boundary fast enough. You don't say no when it's time to say no, and you don't say yes when it's time to say yes. And you're sort of maybe, mamby-pamby, and therefore you think you've been taken advantage of. So you don't speak up fast enough, and you're blaming that on men. And two, if you would speak up fast enough and you would have your boundaries, then you'd be able to just love with your heart fully open in the light feminine. You'd be able to just love unconditionally like Mother Teresa, like Mother Mary. You'd be able to just love. But you can't just love because you're suspect, because you are suspect.
Right.
You're not setting your own boundaries. You're not keeping your own boundaries. And therefore, you're saying you distrust men. But if you had a boundary and you could keep it, then you could also keep your heart wide open. Right. And you could just love whoever comes in your presence without blame, without shame, without anything. And for me, sitting in that quadrant was the biggest lesson I ever got.
Wow.
Like, I couldn't even believe I was saying that.
Right.
But that's where I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, no, there's no maybes.
Right.
If there's a maybe, I know it's a no until further notice. And I'm able to have my heart wide open. I got no blame about anybody or anything. Even past hurts, even past things that I held on to, nothing.
Right. And that's true. And that's true going through the emotional release.
I let it all go.
Let it all go.
Yeah.
So you came back to your own sovereignty. So there's no more projection of like what those women were asking. So
or he did this to me, or they are doing this in the world. No,
right.
No, right. No one's doing anything to me. I speak my truth, and then I can keep my heart open.
Right. Awesome. I wasn't expecting that example. That was
I wasn't expecting it either.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's amazing. It's amazing.
That's a perfect example.
Like
really?
Yeah.
Because they came to me crying because they want to love, and they're so mad. And when you're so mad at the past, at men, starting with your father or your grandfather, then starting with your first love, your second love, whatever. Yeah, I have my heart been broken? Yeah. I've been cheated on? Yeah. Has people lied to me? Yeah. Have, everything that ever happened to them happened to me.
Sure.
Not to mention the President of the United States being an asshole. Not to mention all the, not to mention the
other stuff.
Not to mention the men that are out there as role models who like role model nothing.
Right.
But I finally have come to a place where I've done the emotional release. I've let go of all the charge that I have about men in the past, including my father. And now I'm in a place where I see that if I say no fast enough to something I really don't want, I can keep my heart open. I don't have to withdraw, withhold, get feisty, be cunty. I don't have to be like that. I can just keep my heart open. It's like the divine masculine, holding space without judgment. I can be in the divine feminine, loving without judgment. Just loving without judgment. And I know that I can trust my no, because when I mean no, I mean it.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And it's one of the things I love about you. Yes.
Me too.
And there's this thing about what I maybe just add on to that is a lot of people can't handle hearing no. Like they don't know what it's like to actually get a no for similar reasons of your example. That whole thing of the women asking, like, how do I trust? Well, it's like, you need your no.
Yeah. You've got to be able to trust your own no.
Right. And they don't have theirs, so how can they?
Well, and that's the part of sovereignty, which is I have a voice.
Yeah.
So sovereignty can be whittled down to I have a voice and I know how to use it.
Right. And I matter.
And I matter. And so do you. And at the same time, I trust my yes. I trust my no.
Right.
If I give you a no, it's a no. If I give you a yes, it's a yes. And you will know that what I've said to you is if for a lack of a better reason, or a better way of saying it, is trustworthy.
It's your truth.
I can say my truth, and that person will get my truth. And that's important, because when you talk about your sovereignty and who you are as a human being, these are things you've got to kind of, like you said, do the inner work. It's an inside job. Yeah. It's very much an inside job. Yeah. And so when you get around people who are very wishy-washy about their word, they don't know what to, they don't necessarily give you the yes and no.
I don't want to be with them.
Well, well, they're all around you. Yeah. But
the whole world is there. I run into them
I'm like,
day.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Or is that a no?
Or you ask a question and you get something other than a yes and a no.
Yeah.
Right? This is a yes or no.
It's splaining on me. I don't want no splaining.
Don't be splaining on me.
I don't want any splaining.
Lucy?
Or they
you got a lot of splaining to do.
No splaining.
They answer you with another question.
Correct. Or they start to tell you a story.
Yeah, they give you
that has nothing to do with the answer to the question, right? And it's almost like you're talking to somebody who's like running for office. Sadly. But this is where sovereignty really starts to take form in a person's life. And that form that we've decided that it's kind of like we've taken our own personal constitution and our Declaration of Independence, and we are able to live that out in our own lives around the worlds of sensuality and sexuality, which can be very murky. It can be very gray area. A lot of the times it's not black and white, which is okay. There's some, there are 50 shades of gray
in your world.
But when it comes to sovereignty, we got to talk about consent. Yeah. Consent is probably the biggest piece, I think, that's missing.
But we're trained. The thing is, we didn't get this from our parents. My parents never used the word boundaries. How many people's parents used the word boundaries when you were growing up?
Not mine.
If you raise your hand, you're so in the minority, I don't even recognize you. That's one. Like, where did you grow up? Disneyland? Two. The three of us are really well-trained mammals. Like, we went and got training. Mm-hmm. We've done multiple trainings, whether it's the Landmark Forum, whether it's Alison Armstrong, whether it's ISTA, whether it's Bliss and Ecstasy. We've done the work. So if you're listening to this show and you're going like, what the hell are they talking about? Because you could be just going like, duh, who are these people?
Right.
They're saying no and yes, and they're saying, no pressure. They're saying, you haven't done the work. If you're sitting there with a question mark over your head, you need to come to something to begin to do the work so you can feel the freedom that we feel and the ability to feel the pleasure that we feel, because we know that when we go for the pleasure, we've already been through it. We know how to say no. We know how to say 10, too much. Yep. Too much.
Yep.
9, it's coming upon a red, stop.
Right.
And we're not afraid to say it.
Absolutely.
So it takes practice. It takes work.
Yeah.
To get there, to be able to use your no in that way,
So, as an action point, or as an action step,
item,
as an action item, if you will.
Yeah.
In declaring your own sovereignty, Laurie, you You spelled it out very clearly. And the action step is to get yourself trained. If you have no idea what we're talking about, get yourself some kind of information. Look up ISTA online, look up Bliss, go to lauriehandlers.com, the academyformen.com. These are a couple places you can go to get reference points for this. Also have an incredible connection to a whole world through that. And Laurie, you were going to say something.
Yeah, you need to make an investment in yourself.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but these things cost us money, and they're going to cost you money.
Yeah.
Like you're buying that new pair of shoes and that new whatever, that new coif, that you're getting your nails done. Invest that same kind of money in your own human development and training, because this is where you're going to find how to make yourself happy. And happiness and joy are an inside job, the same way as safety is, but we're going to come to that.
Yeah. Do we take a break here before we go on to safety?
Sure.
I want to give
no, not yet.
I want to give everybody a quick exercise that I used to do for myself.
Oh, thank you.
With like discovering what it feels like to say no, and then discovering what it feels like to say yes. So, quick example, I remember the first time I was at a workshop and I had to make somebody believe that I meant no. And there's so much more to it than just actually saying the word. Like feeling it in your body and actually giving off that energy of no. Like, no, I mean no. And I lost my voice. These people were laughing at me, right? I might be exaggerating, but they were smiling. And I'm like, no, get the fuck away from me. Anyway, so that's how this started.
I had the same experience.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And
I yelled.
I yelled my head off, and they didn't even get it. They're just looking at me like, I don't believe you. And It's like, what do you mean? No. It is craziness. So what I did, and you can do this at home, that's why I'm giving this to you. So if you're listening to this, after you stop and we're done, then you go into your bathroom and you look in the mirror. Look into your own eyes. Look into what would be your left eye, because you're in the mirror, and just start saying no to yourself. And see how it feels. And get through the giggles, and get through the this is ridiculous, and this is stupid, because that's all the stuff that's telling you to not get your own sovereignty back. That's all the surface shit that's in the way, which is why you don't have your sovereignty in the first place. So get through that stuff until you feel comfortable saying the word no to your own face. And then do yes. And see what that feels like. Maybe is a no. So don't even do maybe. Just do no and yes. And do it in the mirror and see what it feels like. See what your face looks like when you
Maybe in our world. Maybe in our world is no.
Maybe in our world is no.
Right.
So take that one on and try that one.
Maybe actually means no until further notice.
Yes. No until further notice.
Yep.
So that's my little exercise.
That's great,
for you to take
Lance.
home.
Thank you, Lance.
I did it, and it works, and it helped me to maybe on the third try get people to stop and go.
So good. So good.
Instead of the 10th or 15th or 20th, you know. Anyway.
Safety. What the hell is that? You know, they come into these workshops. I do all these workshops all around the world, and they come and they go, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. What the hell is that? I don't feel safe. Like, what is that in the world that we live in today? Where did that come from? Why is it like that? And what can we do about it? Who wants to go first?
I'll take this one first.
Go for it.
I have a lot of experience. I've actually had, this is sad to say, but I've actually had women run away from me, run away from me, run out the front door of the bar, literally to their car and drive away. Like, cause I was just, hi, how you doing? Da, da, da. They didn't feel safe. And part of it was energetic. Trust
Are you
me.
creepy?
I'm seriously creepy. Let me recover.
Yeah.
You are not creepy.
So creepy. I'm not
so
creepy.
not creepy.
So what that was when I was when that was happening, when I was that person, right? When I was the person who could drive a woman from a perfectly good bar.
From a perfectly good martini.
From a perfectly good time. And what that was I was not communicating energetically and bodily my desire. So if I had a desire for a woman, I would pen it up and I would be polite and nice and all those other, which you should do. You should always be polite and nice.